Hey guys, welcome to What the F. So excited about my guest today, and before we get started, I really want to thank Neurelis and SK Life Science for believing in What the F podcast and making conversations like this possible. My guest today is Meg Busing, who is a registered nurse, the founder and executive director of Midwest You Can, which is an epilepsy advocacy nonprofit, and also has a TED Talk under her belt. Meg, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me today. I think what you're doing is awesome and changing so many lives, including mine. So I just appreciate being here and having the chance to talk to you today.
So yeah, today, with this episode being released like right after Mother's Day, I just kind of wanted to talk to you about what it's like being a mom living with epilepsy, because I think a lot of us wonder about, and it doesn't get talked about a lot. And I really appreciate you coming on and willing to share your story. But before we dive into motherhood, let's talk about where your epilepsy journey started, because you have a very unique, is a weird way of putting it, origin story to how your epilepsy began.
Sure. Well, it was all the way back in March of 1998. And I was in a car ride home with some girlfriends from school.
How old were you?
And I was 14. So
Okay.
my friend's older sister was driving us home, and I had skipped track practice that day because I was so excited that I had family in town. It was girls' state basketball season, kind of around this time. And so I was just so excited to watch my cousin play basketball. And my house is only about 10 minutes away from my high school. So I just got a quick ride home, and it was on the way home from school that my friend's older sister lost control of the car, and it hit a tree, impacting my side of the car. So there were 4 other girls in the car, and all of them were okay and no injuries or anything. But it was, it impacted my side of the car. So they say that my head went through the window and hit the tree. We ran into a tree, and I was unconscious. And I know one of my friends said that I had my head down and there was blood coming out of my nose. And I wasn't responding. And so as I've grown up, I was always thinking like, oh, why was it always me, the one that got hurt?
Totally.
But I'm like, they're the ones that have to live with the memory of what it was like seeing me. And so that would be, just
because I imagine you don't have
to have the memory of seeing their friend unconscious and not able to talk. Or so the ambulance came, and luckily the nearest hospital was right across the street. And so they determined that I had a traumatic brain injury. And so they put a pressure monitor into my skull and on IVs and everything, and I was in a coma for a week.
Oh my God, you poor
So
thing.
now being a mom, I realize I can't believe can't imagine what it would be like as my mom and dad just having to sit and wait for me to wake up. And the doctor said, we don't know if she'll know who she is, if she'll be able to talk, if she'll be able, just to do the things that she used to do. So, but on the 7th day, I woke up and they said, I don't remember much of it, but they say that I recognized them and that I asked what had happened, and I had noticed in a mirror that they had to shave part of my head for that pressure monitor. So they knew, like, okay, Meg is back, because I was like, why did they shave that part of my head?
Yeah, you're like, where's
When
my
I was
hair?
a 14-year-old. Yeah. So of course that was like the biggest deal.
Totally, 100%.
The biggest deal was like, not that I have all these IVs in, not because I have
Right.
chest tubes in.
Yeah, but
You
you're
know,
14 and you don't know why you
that I
have part
got-
of your head shaved. Yeah.
Yeah, and just a part, not the whole head, So
You're like, I can't even be cool. Like, it's just
it's
a
just
chunk.
a part. So,
Yeah.
but So I thought I was fine. I was like, okay, we're ready to go. But they took me on to rehab at the local rehab center in Lincoln. And that's where I found out, that even though I wasn't damaged looking on the
Mm-hmm.
outside, when I did occupational therapy and speech therapy, that's where I realized that, oh, this really is going to be life lasting. And
Wow.
this is going to be, yeah, going to impact me for the rest of my life because I, at the time, couldn't think of words, easy words, putting puzzles together was
Mm-hmm.
hard for me to do, like 10-piece
Yeah.
puzzle together, naming
Yeah.
like a pen. They were like, okay, what is this? And I could not think of the word. So it
Oh,
was
that
just,
is the most frustrating and terrifying feeling.
yeah,
When, yeah, I went through a little bit of that after I had brain surgery. And I remember just like when I would go on walks, I would try and name things. Like,
uh,
and I remember staring at a tree and being like, I, I know this. I
yeah.
know I know
And
this.
it's just on the tip of your tongue, like
Yeah, what a tough thing at 14. Oh my gosh.
at 14, just, when you're freshman in high school, just
Confidence is super high, self esteem through the roof, right? At
yeah, you're
14.
having
Yeah.
fun with friends. And I was in the middle or had just finished my basketball season. And then it all was put on a halt.
Yeah.
And then that was the beginning of the rest of my life, and just dealing with the effects of the traumatic brain injury on March 6th, 1998.
Wow. And when did you start having seizures?
So I was able to go through high school. They were awesome and had tutors for me, and they were able to get me,
Wonderful.
yeah, special assistance at school, which
Hmm.
is amazing. And so I was able to graduate with my class and then actually got into college. And I had, special accommodations on tests, which really helped me get through college. And then
Which is awesome. And like sometimes you don't hear that, right?
yeah,
Like a lot of people will be like, I had to fight for accommodations. I had to like, so whenever you hear like, yeah, I got accommodations and I'd never heard of it before and it worked and everything was fine. And it's like, what? Like we look at that as like a miracle now when it should
yeah.
be the standard,
Yeah, yeah, it used to be, I guess it wasn't that easy, but
Okay.
because you walk into, like, I remember my freshman year, it was a huge psychology class. So there were like over 100 students. And so after class, I walked down after the first day, and my professor had his back to me. And I was like, hi. Um,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to let you know that I have accommodations, and so I need to take my tests in the Students with Disabilities office here. So just wanted to give you a heads up. And he was kind of like, well, he kind of acted like that was going to be troublesome for him.
Oh my God.
It was like, oh, so I have to take the test, walk it over to the Students with Disabilities office, and then you're going to take it there, and then I have to walk back over there and pick it up. Okay.
Wow. All
So it
that
wasn't
walking.
as
The
easy as
poor
it
guy. Poor
sounds.
guy.
It
He's got to do
wasn't
more
as easy.
walking.
Yeah, as it sounds, but I think that really started getting me going on advocating for myself, which continues
Yeah.
on to today, as a lot of people with epilepsy and disabilities know that, you
Hmm.
gotta advocate for yourself. So I did, though, all my prereqs and was able to get into nursing school, which was always a dream of mine because my mom's a nurse and I have aunts that are nurses. My grandma's a
Oh,
nurse. And so that was just huge for me was to get into nursing school. So
that's awesome. And so and were you having seizures at this point or no? And like, did they start in college
they
or was it
started
later?
in nursing school. Yep.
In nursing school.
They
Okay. So tell me about that.
and people with epilepsy know that they like to come at the most inopportune times. They sometimes they
100%.
don't like to wait until you shut the door and you sit down and you're away from people and then you can have it. Sometimes
Right.
they just
In a
like to,
safe space.
yeah, in a
Like,
safe space.
right.
So I was in front of my class and was standing up, giving a presentation,
Oh no.
and just noticed that my heart started racing.
Yeah.
And I started looking to the left side of the room, and I couldn't look back to the middle of the room. And I knew how important from taking speech classes in high school that it was to make eye contact with the crowd.
Yeah.
But I was staring over to the left side and I was swallowing a lot, and heart racing, and I wasn't able to talk. And so I was just like, and then I was able to gather myself after what seemed like forever, but it probably was only like 5 seconds, and was able to regain my composure and finish my talk. But kind of luckily it was in nursing school because my nursing instructor who saw me that day encouraged me to see a neurologist.
Wow. See, that was going to be my question was like, well, in a room full of wannabe nurses and one registered nurse at anyone
Yeah. It,
and someone, and God, wow. I
and
mean,
I
I
said,
hate saying that, like, I'm glad it happened there, but like, I'm just glad that someone caught it. That's
yeah,
all, you
yeah,
know?
that she knew the signs and knew, because I always thought seizures are falling to the ground and
Yep.
convulsing,
Yep.
and that's what they were. And so how could those be seizures? And so she found an epileptologist for me. I didn't even know what an epileptologist was.
Yeah.
And so she
I get
found
it.
one for me, and which was so awesome of her. And I
Yes.
went in and he was just said, you that was a seizure, and have you had any more of those feelings as you've been waiting to get in to see me at this appointment? And I said, yeah, I've had like two more of those feelings. And he said, well, then you've had two or more, so you most likely have epilepsy. And that's where I was shocked. I didn't know anyone who had epilepsy. Had no idea what epilepsy was. And I had no idea that just that 10-second staring spell could cause the trauma that it has in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how would you say, like, from, from nursing school to now, what does your seizures look like? Like, has it gotten better? Has it just done the thing where it likes to like wax and wane and be like, it's gone, JK, we're back, sort of thing?
They've done all that, they get better and then they get worse. No, throughout nursing school, they continued to get to be more and more. So I started on one medication, and by the end of nursing school, I was on three at the maximum dosage. And you know how that is being on a med. It's almost like,
Yeah.
what's worse?
Oh,
Being
yeah.
on the cocktail, as they like it. We can't have real cocktails like I wish we could, but we can sure have cocktails of seizure meds.
Right.
And so I was on a cocktail of meds. And so that was causing me to be tired,
Yes.
and words weren't, I was having trouble with the words and multitasking. And I'm sure they've said it was because of the seizures and maybe some of the meds. And
Well, and
so
that's the thing is that like those meds make you so exhausted. And then when you're on multiple
when you're at,
and at like the highest levels, like I had another doctor like look at my medication list and he was like, I don't know how you're awake right now. Like, and I was like, what? And to the point where I was on so many medications, the side effects were actually causing me to have seizures because I was getting so tired that if I did anything, it was like pushing a boundary, you
Yeah.
know? And so, like, and luckily I have an epileptologist who's like, I think I'm over medicating you. We need to get you off some things, you know? And I appreciated her candor and her being like, acknowledging that it was like her thing. Like, let me take you off
Yeah.
this, what I did, you know? But it is something just to think about for anyone who's out there like, I'm on like 14 medications, maybe, you know, maybe talk to your doctor and be like, what should we do here? What can we what can
Yeah.
we
Do we
whittle
have any
down?
other options?
Yeah.
You
Always
know,
ask. Always ask for other options because sometimes doctors too will just be like, okay, well, if you're happy, then I'm happy. And, you
yeah.
know, and so it's just kind of, it goes back to that advocacy for yourself, which you were talking about, was just being like, what are the other options to maybe make quality of life better? Or maybe, you know, decrease seizure frequency. Just kind of just always asking, even if you feel annoying, because I feel like that's always the thing. So we're like, I don't want to bother you, but.
Yeah, that's kind of how I always was. Like, I don't want to bother you. And I didn't know there were any other options. And so, what I did was I slowed down nursing school. So, luckily, they let me, take less classes, was able to graduate. And
That's awesome.
that was
Kudos. That's
that was
huge.
huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
to just to have those abbreviations.
Yeah.
Meg Busing, comma, RN. you know,
Absolutely.
having
Yes.
those is something that, people have told me, Meg, they can never take that away from you.
100%.
They can,
Yes.
even if you're having trouble being a nurse, they can never take the RN, BSN away from you.
So in that period of time, because you said, did you graduate nursing school as Meg Busing? Were you already married
No,
or
I
no?
wasn't married yet.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. We met, gosh, in like 2006. We went on our first date at a bookstore here in Omaha. And
Oh.
I remember what he was wearing, and
Oh.
he was just so easy to talk to. And I was able to come out about my epilepsy on the first date.
Wow.
And that I never came out on the first date just because I didn't want to scare him or the
Yeah.
stigma to come.
Yep.
But
What
with
made you
Kale,
comfortable enough to tell Kale?
he told me he's a counselor, so that helped. A school
Yes.
counselor for kids.
That's awesome.
And I don't know, I just got the feeling
Just
from him
felt
that it would
comfortable.
be okay to tell him. And he had told me about some stuff from his childhood, and why he was in Omaha, what brought him from Colorado to Omaha. And so I felt safe sharing it with him. And his response was not like, oh, I gotta get going, It
Right.
was just like asking me about it and tell me more. And how does that make you feel? And I was just like, wow, I've never,
Compassion.
yeah,
Empathy. What's going on?
yeah. And those are some of my top things I
Curiosity.
look
Like,
for, yeah, in friends and,
uh-huh.
in
Yep.
relationships. And that's why you're so awesome. The
Oh,
compassion, the empathy, are
you're
just
so
such
sweet.
gifts and traits that awesome people have. And
Back at
so
you, sister.
we hit it off right away, and the rest is history. Yeah.
I love that.
And he was always supportive about my epilepsy and what it
So
would mean
huge.
to our relationship.
What do you mean by that? Because I think that's a really important thing to discuss is like what it means to your relationship. Because it's different for everyone,
Yeah,
right?
it's totally different for
But like
everyone.
yeah, so what do you mean when you say that?
We, had talked about, or just here and there, we had experienced it and then been like, is this something that'll be okay?
Do you mean like the seizures or the everyday or all of
Just
it?
like all the stuff that impacts those of us with seizures that I never think about, but
Yeah.
then someone else, like the medical bills and like the
Yeah.
prescription bills, and just all that comes along with it. I felt like I had to give him a heads up about how much epilepsy costs,
Yeah.
because that
There's no
alone
discounts.
is, yeah, that alone is hard. I had to let him know about my memory and say, from the traumatic brain injury and seizures I had,
And epilepsy
sometimes I would
meds and all
I
the
would
things that
repeat
don't help.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to be sure that he was okay with that. And just know, I guess it was more for me,
Totally.
knowing that he was okay and knowing that he knew what he was jumping into. When we got married, I've progressively gotten worse since I was when we got married.
How so?
So that he has said, or not he has said, but
Yeah.
he's noticed too. But
And when you say when you've gotten worse, what do you mean by that?
my seizures had become more frequent, wasn't able to keep a job as a nurse. So, and that was while we were married in the very beginning of our marriage. I think my
Testing
brain,
those vows right away.
yes,
Like,
that's what
you
it
know?
was. It was like the vows, and then my brain was like, ha ha, you got him. And now, and now I'm going to really start firing off.
Oh
The neurons were pumped.
my God. Gotcha.
Yeah, they were excited. So yeah, they were just affecting me more. We had always wanted a baby, and that all that goes along with marriage and having to prepare
Yeah.
for that part.
Yeah.
So
So what's it that this is where like I am just chomping at the bit, want to know,
mm,
like, what did those conversations look like when it came to having children? Because you have boys, right? You have
I have two boys and a
two
girl.
boys, two boys and a girl.
Two
Okay.
boys and a girl. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, which congratulations, that's amazing.
Thank you.
But like, how did you decide? And did epilepsy play a role in your decision? And what did that journey look like for you guys?
Yeah, epilepsy did play a role. And we actually did start thinking about it more after marriage,
Yeah.
even more when we were thinking of trying. And I always say it was me and like four men who decided to have a child, not just me and Kale, because it
Sure.
really was pulling in my epileptologist,
Mm-hmm.
my OB,
Mm-hmm.
and then a high risk OB,
Yep.
and pulling us all together
Mm-hmm.
to talk about my body and my brain
How
and
fun.
my hormones and everything, but
Wow.
really getting everybody on the same page
Yeah.
so that we could make the decision of what works best.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've seen it over and over and over, my
Sure.
epileptologist and the high risk OB, especially.
Now, was it just about getting the okay, or was it about like how do we not just okay, but like did they weigh in? Were they like, okay, well, here are some major risks, or was it just like, no, we got this, we got you, we'll figure it out. If this is what you want, we know how to accommodate.
It was, we did go over the risks,
Mm-hmm.
both with my epileptologist and the high risk OB.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, both of them told me that the medications that I was on were more of the newer, they call them newer generation medications. So not the
Sure.
old school ones, but some of the newer ones that were
Mm-hmm.
safer. And so I was still worried though, just for myself, for the baby. And one of my other
Yeah.
questions was, am I going to seize more during pregnancy?
Yeah.
Because I knew that sometimes hormones go along with epilepsy.
Hand
And
in
when,
hand. They're best friends.
There are, women, we get it all, don't we?
Yeah.
Uh, compared to
Sure
those
do.
guys. And so we talked about estrogen being a preconvulsant and progesterone being an anticonvulsant, and how high your progesterone goes during pregnancy. And we talked about with my fluid volume increasing during pregnancy. In
Okay.
my, your tummy gets fluid
Yeah.
volume, that we might have to increase my medications
Yeah.
dosages.
I've heard
So
that.
we checked my med levels before before I became pregnant, checked when I became pregnant, and then every now and then we would check them during pregnancy to be sure the med levels weren't decreasing
Okay.
or increasing a ton. And I thought that was super, I felt empowered. I think that's something with epilepsy in general, but I think pregnancy and epilepsy, like knowledge is power and working as a
Yes.
team and just
Yes.
knowing the latest research and knowing, what to do and what's important. I felt like they were on top of it and really cared about me, like to know, like, yep, let's draw your levels. Yep, let's
Yeah.
do all that we can to make this a healthy pregnancy. So they did let me know because the seizure meds went through the breast milk that breastfeeding might want to be something that I think about before doing it.
Okay. Sure.
And although the pediatrician, so everybody has their thoughts on breastfeeding in general.
Yep.
And
Yep. It's
and our
such a fun.
pediatrician said, well, Meg, your baby's been having your seizure meds the entire pregnancy and has been fine.
Yeah.
So what would the difference be with breastfeeding? Because he's been getting it all through pregnancy. But I made the personal decision to not breastfeed because I didn't, want to take the risk or
It's what you're
want
comfortable with.
Rhodey,
Yeah.
to be getting
Yep.
any of my seizure meds. And
Yeah.
so whether or not, I don't think it impacts the baby, but I think for my own anxiety and sanity, I didn't want
Totally.
that to be something to be thinking about or worrying about. But it was during, my last trimester of pregnancy, I started having more seizures.
Oh, wow.
And I was getting,
With your first kid.
yeah,
Yes?
my first
Okay.
kid. Yep.
Okay.
With Brody.
Okay.
And they said that, with the fluid volume increase, we were just going to stay on top of the seizures. And that they always said, never take yourself off of your seizure meds
Yeah.
because that's what's safe for you and baby.
The fact that you had this team, like from the get go,
Yeah.
like before, like making the decision, and then
That,
along the way, and let's check things out along the way. And then, like, okay, we are going to schedule this so that we can all be present and make sure that everything is good. And everything turned out good,
and
right?
everything turned out good, but it was just one less thing to have to worry about.
Okay, so you guys have one healthy baby boy. And then my questions are like, because I guess my questions are a little bit beyond pregnancy because I get so scared about, I'm like, okay, the pregnancy, like you've got this team, you've got people help you through it, right? But then like lack of sleep for me causes seizures and like, you have an infant and I hear you don't sleep much with them. And
Right.
then I hear you don't sleep much with toddlers or with like 10-year-olds or teenagers. And so I'm like, my husband and I are talking about this. We're like, what, we just feel like it's kind of like, having a kid. We're like, is that just asking for like a lifetime of seizures, or, and so how would you guys go about that?
We kind of prepared for knowing that I wasn't going to breastfeed. Then we knew that Kale would be able to get up at night with Brody. So we knew that I was going to be able to sleep well during the night so that he would get up with him and do the bottle feeding.
Okay.
So that helped us a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And just keeping an eye on if I was feeling you know, dizzy or if I was feeling seizure-y. I don't know. Do you get those
Oh
feelings?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I feel like that's only something you can say to someone else with epilepsy. You're like, I'm
yeah.
feeling seizure and like to anyone else, they're like, that sounds like bullshit. And it's
Yeah,
like,
like, what
it's
do you
not.
mean? Yeah,
It's like, I can't explain it. Just trust me.
yeah,
Like,
like I know within the next, 2 or 3 days, I'm probably gonna have one, or
yeah.
I just would
Yeah.
feel
It's just on the cusp. I need to be really alert right now. I need to cancel the plans I was supposed to make, because
right,
I feel like I'm on the precipice of a seizure. So,
right.
yeah, it's so funny. I call it seizure too, but it's
Seizure,
really hard.
yeah.
It's really hard to say that to someone else who doesn't get it.
Yeah, they're just like, what do you mean
Yeah,
by
they're like that.
seizure? And it's
Yeah,
like,
that sounds like just a bullshit excuse. It's like
yeah,
it's not.
it's real. Like it's like
Yeah.
saying you're tired or you're, hungry. I'm
Or you
seizure.
feel like, yeah, I'm like, it
You're
feels like
worried.
a cold is coming on. Like,
Yeah,
that's the only way I know how to explain to like non epilepsy people. Be like, you know
right.
that feeling when you can tell you're getting sick. It's the same thing.
It's the same
So,
thing. So I felt like if I was getting a little seizure, she would be around. And it helped. Yeah, it helped to plan because Kale took off. I had 9 weeks off of work.
oh, awesome.
And then Kale took the first 6 weeks off. And then my mom came up and she took time with me to help with Brody as I was healing. Because, healing, that too.
I mean, I don't know, but I have mad respect for it. Like,
Well,
I'm
it's,
like, I don't know, like how you gals do it. I really don't.
I didn't know until I had one either, like what went into it. I just thought you closed up and we were good to go. Like I had no, even being a nurse, uh, until you experience it, I think, or probably the labor and delivery nurses know exactly what goes on after. They seem to know that there was lots of fluid and drainage and that I would need to wear diapers and pull-ups.
Fun.
But we had it planned so like somebody would be there to help me. It went okay. And if I felt, one thing that Brody, who is now 13,
Oh
we were
wow.
talking about me being on this last night. And he said, Mom, I remember one time you told me that you were too tired from your seizure meds to even bond with me. That dad was the one who was holding with me and bonding with me, and you were in bed, dizzy. And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that, Brody. And just the fact that it stuck in his head, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
why did I tell him that? One time,
Yeah. Well,
just
yeah, I think maybe it gives him a better understanding of what his mom's going through.
right. I think we were
Well,
just talking about it as,
yeah.
not like telling Brody, this is what it was like when you were born, but more
Right.
just kind of talking
Like
about it,
anecdotal
Kale and
story.
I, and
Yeah.
comparing the pregnancies and just
Yeah.
remembering that the one with Brody was significantly harder than the other two. And so kind of talking about what it was like. But it was more
Yeah.
the dizziness from the medications, I think, because I had to take more, higher doses during pregnancy. And then they didn't really work to titrate them back down. I mean, they were more worried about me healing
Yeah.
and not
That makes
having
sense.
seizures,
Yeah.
but they never titrated very quickly. So I think it was my body just like too much, too many meds, or the dose was a
Totally.
little high. And it was scary sometimes, like walking and holding him as an infant, like thinking, what if I drop him?
Yeah, that is something I think about in this
Yeah,
whole like baby debate phase I'm in right now is like, well, what if that just what you just said? Like, what if I'm holding a child and drop them? Like,
right. And I just think, though, that we can live our lives with what if, what if, what if. And sometimes if we want it, we just have to go for it. Have a plan in place, have all
yeah.
the resources, that you can get, be as educated as you can, go in with a positive attitude.
Well, and it seems like you like there's two themes that I have like noticed here, and it's one, like, be prepared, like you plan, and then two, within that plan is a team.
Mhm.
Whether it's the doctors that you have, your husband, your mom, you had people like lined up ready to go. So there was no like, oh, who do I call now? It was kind of
Right.
like, nope, here we go, this is in place. So okay, so you've got Brody, and then you have two other children. How old are they now?
So in between that time is when
Yeah.
I had brain surgery. And
Oh,
I don't know if you wanted to talk about the brain surgery.
god
Um,
damn.
but
You poor thing.
that's why the
Okay.
pregnancies with Jones and Grace went a lot smoother.
Tell me more. Okay, so you don't hear that very often. Like, I had brain surgery and then my pregnancies went so much smoother. That's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah,
I've
because I wasn't
never heard that.
seizing. Well, because I wasn't seizing.
Yeah. Okay, so what surgery did you have?
It was during that first year of Brody's life when I was really feeling like, gosh, I wish I could be a, a more active mom, or like have the confidence
Mm-hmm.
of being the mom I always wanted to be, like
Mm-hmm.
active. And I remember sitting down with my doctor, and he was like, I could give you your fifth medication, Meg, if you want your fifth
Yeah.
medication. But he said, I have an option of brain surgery. And
Mm.
especially because you're a traumatic brain injury and you
Mm.
have scar tissue, and we know
Okay.
exactly where your scar tissue is,
Yeah.
we could go in there, snip it out. They talk like about it
Quick
like it's
snip.
so easy.
Yeah.
We'll go
Right.
in, we'll
We just
snip it
unzip
out.
your skull, go in,
Yeah.
snip, and done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you're
Totally.
done and life is
Yeah.
good. But they gave me that option, and like they had mentioned it before, and I always had said like, hell no, you're not doing brain surgery. No,
Mm-hmm.
I'll
Yeah.
try another med at the maximum dose before I let you do surgery.
Totally. Which is, I think, is a very common and valid response because it sounds terrifying, right?
Yeah, it's
Yep.
always, but he is so good at talking to me, my epileptologist. And
Awesome.
I was there with my husband, and he just said, you know what? I know you want to have a normal life. I know you want to go back and be a nurse. I know you want to be a mom and have more kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think meds are going to do it. I think you
Mm-hmm.
need to, think about brain surgery.
Yeah.
So we came home and thought about it more. My husband, Kale, is a go-getter, and so he was right away like, "Yep, you're doing it. Like, best option." And I was like, "This is my body and brain, dude. Like, let's not just go with it."
Right.
But I thought about it more, and it was true. Like, if I wanted to be the mom I always thought I could be with Brody,
Mm-hmm.
I was willing to take the risk of being seizure free. I knew it
Mm-hmm.
was safe these days,
Mm-hmm.
especially they said they would do all the steps of testing just to even see if I was a candidate. So it wasn't like, you're
Good.
going to have surgery. They had a
Just
lot
throw
of,
you in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
they did a lot of testing to see if I was
Yeah.
even a candidate for brain surgery.
Good. And anyone listening, make sure, that's like a requirement. If your doctor's just like, hey, you should have surgery and throws you in there for epilepsy, there is testing involved. It's different for everyone, but just make sure.
So then I had, yeah, my, in April, Brody would have been, like 18 months old or so. They did a left temporal lobectomy, and they
Mm,
also took my hippocampus underneath my
okay.
temporal lobe.
Wow.
So that was
It's a big
scary,
deal.
but
Yeah, that's really fucking scary. But like, how did it turn out?
I
As
knew
far
it
as
was.
not like short term, like how like long term. You said like your seizures decreased as a
I
result?
I was seizure free for 9 years. So seizure free,
Wow.
like it was
Wow.
amazing up
Yeah.
until 2020, the fun,
Fucking 2020, man.
2020
Ugh.
is when it all goes down. But for
Yeah.
those 9 years, I was able to have Jones.
Mm.
And the pregnancy was still high risk. Still, all
Mm-hmm.
those doctors were together, working as a team. That didn't go away. But
Yeah.
I just didn't, I was on a lower dose of medications. And so we had Jones, and he was healthy as can be. And then my husband is 11 years older than me. And so
Okay.
he was like, girlfriend, like, if we are going to have a third, we gotta get going. And so we had trouble having Brody. And so, I was like, okay, we should. And then I got pregnant with Grace when Jones was only like 10 months old.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so, but that was a blessing, and
Mm-hmm.
that pregnancy went well too.
Mm.
Again, high risk and everybody working as a team. So
Yeah.
my confidence was up, just knowing it
Yeah.
was in good hands.
So what happened in 2020?
They think it is because I'm starting perimenopause.
Fucking hormones again.
Fucking hormones.
Ugh.
Guys deserve like just a little bit, like even a chunk of time where they feel different or
Yes.
hair starts growing in a place they didn't know it was going to grow.
Uh-huh. Have
Or
you ever seen those Instagram reels of like guys? There's like it's like a simulation of what cramps feel like, and they put it on a
I
guy's
haven't seen
pelvis.
those.
Oh my God, these are like so validating because they'll put it on a guy's pelvis, and it's just like a simulation, and like it's a scale of 1 to 10 pain. And they'll put it on a 4, and the men are like, "What? This is only a 4?"
This is-
And then they take the same thing, put it on a woman, and she like puts it up to a 7 or 8. She's like, "This is normal." And
yeah.
they're like, "That's normal." And I'm like, "Okay, I feel like this should be required for everyone to do." But anyway, okay. So back to you. So the doctors think possibly because you might be starting perimenopause, or are they pretty sure you are?
They are pretty sure that I am.
Okay.
Well, they haven't, yeah, could
Because we
be.
still don't know because it's
It
women's health. So who
could
cares, right?
be.
Like,
Right. It could be the start of perimenopause because
yeah.
estrogen's a preconvulsant, progesterone's an anticonvulsant. So when our hormones during perimenopause, I have woken up sweaty, but only like 3 times, like drenched
Yeah.
in sweat.
Okay. So doctors presume you're going through perimenopause, and that has been causing an increase in your seizures. What does that look like for you?
Or they think that they didn't remove all of it. Like they think there could be
Oh,
a little spot, or just that some of the neurons decided to have a party. They were sleeping for a while and they
I
woke
hate
up.
when they do that.
I know they're
Assholes.
sleeping for 9 years and then kind of woke up and are having a party.
So it's another mystery of
Yeah.
the,
And it's
yeah.
just been devastating.
I'm so sorry. What
Just,
has that been like, like talking to your kids about it? Because that's another
um,
thing. I'm so curious as to how that conversation goes. Like, I have no idea.
yeah. And especially because, it was just recent. So they were, all of age to understand that something's going on. And so I think they've all been nervous and scared. And I just asked them, and they said, one thing that stinks is when we go on vacation and we play laser tag, mom doesn't come in with us because of the risk of having a seizure with the flashing lights. And mom used to come and do laser tag with us. And they
Can
talked
I
about,
ask a question?
yeah,
Are you bummed you don't get to do laser tag? Because to me, that sounds like an awesome out. Like, I hate laser tag.
yes, I also am Like, bye, Cal. And
Have
he's like,
fun.
why me? Why me? And I'm like, see you later.
I'm
I'll
gonna go
be,
shopping.
yeah, I'll be getting a soda and people watching. That's the best.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yes. 100%.
but that, yeah, but it's more like I think they worry like, is it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? Am I
Hmm.
gonna see it? They said I
Have they
was
seen any seizures?
no.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Kale really hasn't since mine are, I haven't really had like a complex
Like a,
partial
mm-hmm.
since before my brain surgery. They more are
Okay.
like simple partial. So that's
Okay.
where again I'm like, oh Meg, they're not like they were before surgery. So girlfriend, you're lucky. And then I go back and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like my feelings
Still
are
sucks.
valid. And
Yes.
when you say I've been seizure free for 9 years and now I've been seizure free for 20 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah. It's
it's
so, I can't imagine that heartbreak. Like, I think the longest I've gone was 4 months,
yes,
and that was brutal. I can't imagine though 9 years, and my heart goes out to you because
thank
like
you.
that is just fucking brutal. Like you think you're out of the
Well,
goddamn
thank
woods, you
yeah, and
know?
you still have the med side effects,
Mm,
the cost of the meds and the tests
mm,
and everything, but I was back to real life. Like I was back
yeah,
to thinking, epilepsy was kind of just a thing, just like an
yeah.
extra thing. But
Just like
now
in the
it's,
background, like background
yeah,
noise that you
bef-
don't always have to
that you
be
don't
as,
always think about. But
yeah.
now it's like whoop, right back up, like,
Mm.
hi. And
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem.
hi,
It's
I'm
me.
back. I'm going to
Yeah.
try to come when you're talking to people. I'm going to try to come when the kids are around.
Are you trying to have fun? Because I think I should
Because
join.
I think
Like,
it's, yeah, my turn to jump in here.
yeah.
Because that's when they like to happen to me.
Oh, yeah. My
But
cousin always says, like, if I have a seizure, she's like, oh, did you try and have fun?
yeah,
Was that the.
because that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they like, okay, I haven't had a seizure during this menstrual cycle month.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, maybe I'll be good to go for the next one. And then I'll have a little one. And it's just like, gosh, is it whenever I think about it or whenever I say it? And then that's
Right. Am I
right.
jinxing it?
Yeah, am
Yeah.
I jinxing it? And
Totally.
I mean, they think they're hormonal, so they have me
Mm-hmm.
on a new medicine
Mm-hmm.
for ones that are hormonal, and it's
Sure.
not a seizure med. And then I'm charting my cycle,
Okay.
which I always have charted my cycle, but to kind of see when the
Any
seizure,
correlation?
yeah, if
And
there's any,
yeah.
and there always is correlation.
Yeah. Always, right?
Uh,
And you had an EEG, an at-home EEG recently, right?
yeah.
And how, because I remember seeing like a picture of you and your kids. How was that? Like, how did they respond to that? Like
Yeah.
mom at home with like, mummy wrapped head and, you know,
Yeah,
like
that
the
I just
wires.
they talked about it this morning because I also asked them like, what can I add to the talk? And they were like, add the part where you were at home with the EEG. And I said, well, what was it like? And Jones, our middle,
Hmm.
said, well, I couldn't walk around in my underwear, and so that wasn't fun because
Wait, because of the
because of the
camera?
cameras all over the house, so we couldn't walk around. But
That was
then
very inconvenient. I had to put pants
very
on,
yes,
mom.
but Grace was saying that it was scary for her that,
Oh,
just to have
yeah.
my hair with all the leads coming out and taped
Yeah.
up and having
Hmm.
cameras and
So, how do you respond as a mom and how do you feel about all of this? Like, that's the other thing that, we worry so much about the kids. Like, how are they handling it? But, like, what about mom? What about you? Like, how do you feel about it? Where are your emotions at when it comes to this stuff?
yeah, I try to be positive around the kids, but I think it's also good to be real, and to say that, yeah, mom is sad, or, and having Kale, my counselor husband,
Yes.
he has said that,
It's a great
it's
resource.
healthy. It's okay to tell your kids that you're sad or you're having a hard day. Like,
Yeah.
kids need to see that it's not all bu- butterflies all the
All
time,
right. Like a whole picture. They need to
Yeah,
see like a whole picture, not just yeah, I get it.
yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
don't get it because I don't have kids, but I agree.
But you agree, yeah, you
Yeah.
know what it's like, and it's just like a roller coaster of feelings.
Yeah.
It depends on the day. Like,
Yep.
I think I'm more emotional today because I'm talking about it today and I'm thinking about it today, and
Yeah.
then I worry. I'm anxious around that time of the month. Like, when's it gonna happen? Who am I gonna be with? Am I gonna have to explain it? So it's just like
It's just a whole hodgepodge of valid
of
emotions.
of
Like
emotions. Like,
grateful, sad, pissed, compassionate. It's just all of the things. It's
right.
like,
It's
yeah.
all
Yeah,
of
what I find so interesting too is like in our community, in the epilepsy community, like so many people will be like, well, I'm lucky because it's not this, And I feel like we all like feel like we have to give this disclaimer of like, first, I just want to acknowledge that I'm lucky it's not this. But you know and it's like I just wonder, and I appreciate that. I think it's wonderful to be grateful, for what you have too, but I wonder how many of us always just look at someone else and think like, oh, our situation is not as bad as it could be. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be, because it's just I have it good comparatively. And I think there's just a lot of that in not just the epilepsy community, but in like, society in general.
I do that all the time. I think what I'm doing is minimizing my feelings, and not really facing it, but just minimizing it.
Yeah.
And my friend Annie was just recently home from Brooklyn. A friend from high school who was right there with me through the traumatic brain injury, through the epilepsy, through adulthood, having kids. She
It's a
lives
good
in
friend.
Yes, she's amazing, my best friend, and she lives in Brooklyn, so now she says stuff straight up. And she was recently back here in Omaha and we were out to lunch, and I started, she's like, "How are you doing? And how's your seizures going?" And I'm like, "I feel really, it sucks that I'm having breakthrough seizures, but I feel really lucky." And she goes, "Shut the fuck up, Meg. Shut the fuck up. You need to feel how you feel." And I just thought, "What?" And she just said, "No, you don't, especially with me, Meg, you don't need to cover up how you feel.
Totally.
Just
God, we all need an Annie in our lives.
we need Annies in
That's
our life,
awesome.
especially me who loves to sugarcoat stuff, who loves to try to be positive all the time. Nope, that try to be, and
Yeah,
it I'm realizing that it's not always the healthy thing for me to do, to try to be
totally.
positive all the time, because I think I discount my real valid feelings of sadness and grief. And so I'm learning as I go.
But it sounds like you've got such great self awareness. You're like,
Well,
I am aware this is something I'm doing, which is
then,
like the first step in rewiring that thought, right?
right.
So, like, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
Just that positivity is great. And, having, making a list of what I'm grateful for is awesome.
Yes.
But I don't have to tie that in with my epilepsy. You know,
Yeah.
like, I really loved going on a walk today in the sun because I didn't have a seizure. It's like, why do I even have to put the seizure in there? Like, Meg, just say,
Totally.
"I enjoyed going on a walk today in the sun. It was great." But I do that way too much. And
Yeah. Okay, so and then in all of this time that you've had this long epilepsy journey, you also created a nonprofit for epilepsy advocacy and resources called Midwest You Can, which I love. So can and you've got a camp coming up, which I'm so excited about. Can you tell us about that?
I volunteered at a camp for kids with cancer in
Wow.
California before I started nursing school and saw what a value it had for the kids and
Mm-hmm.
for us counselors. You meet
Mm-hmm.
some of the coolest people, like that are volunteering a week of their lives for free to sleep in a cabin in a sleeping bag on the floor with kids and just do it all week for free.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just thought, wow, that gave me such great feelings doing that. And I saw what a difference it made for those kids out there that, hey, what if because I'm not being a nurse as often anymore, but I
Mm-hmm.
still want to help others. What if I tried to create a camp like that here in Nebraska?
That's so
And
cool.
at first I thought, like, girlfriend, that's just a dream. But then I started talking about it with some business, like professional friends, and I went all over the place because they're like, Meg, it's your camp, so what are you going to name it? What are we going to call this thing? And I was like, ooh, okay, we are constantly told with epilepsy what we can't do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be no driving, no slumber parties, no playing football, no drinking alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
all these things that we can't do. And I thought, hey, what if we called it Camp You Can and
I love
create an
it.
opportunity for kids to come to a safe environment and find out all that they can do and just meet other kids with
So
epilepsy and see that
beautiful.
they're not alone. And now we are on our 11th year
Oh my
of
gosh, that's
Camp You
amazing.
Can. So, yeah, we turned it into the Midwest You Can Foundation so we can take donations as a 501c3 because we like to keep camp as affordable for families as we can
That's
because
amazing.
we all know how expensive epilepsy is. And
Yeah.
so we try to keep camp as affordable for families as we can.
That's incredible. I love that.
Yeah, this is a place where kids are zooming across the zip line
Ah.
and doing archery, and it's so cool, like stopping by the cabins and standing in the lunch line. You'll hear kids say stuff like, "This is the only place where I can talk about my epilepsy too."
Hmm. It makes
Or
such a difference, especially
yeah,
at that age, well, any age, to connect with someone who gets your experience.
yeah,
But that is so, I mean, that is such an amazing experience you're creating for those kids and for the parents by making it affordable.
yeah,
That is like, I've just never heard of something that incredible before.
yeah.
So, okay, if someone, is listening right now, where can they sign up? Where can they donate? And the link will be in the episode description. But where do we go? Because
We
I need to
are
get on that donation page like right now.
Yeah.
So, hmm
We're at www.midwestyoucan, all one word, .org.
and that's in the podcast description episode right now. So go take a look if you want to get on it. Go donate.
Yep, and we're on social media,
Yep.
Camp You Can on Facebook or on Instagram. And there are some videos on YouTube that you can watch. There is an epileptologist, Dr. Page. We call him Camp Doc.
Oh,
He comes
so
all the
sweet.
way from Ohio. He's the head of epilepsy program in Ohio, and he spends the night in a cabin and takes care of all of us, all of our health needs. And then we have 4 registered nurses. So we treat it as a
Amazing.
medical environment, and safety
Good.
is our number one priority. So just
Yeah,
for parents to know, because I know that would be my number one question is okay,
totally.
all of that sounds fun,
Right.
but how do we take
Right.
care of seizures? Like,
My
yeah,
yeah, my kids are ziplining, and if something goes wrong, who do we have? We've got
yeah.
people. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Totally.
we have a parent discussion on the last day of camp.
Oh,
So the families can come together, and that is huge in the feedback we receive from parents. They
yeah.
really enjoy that part.
That's awesome. So, like, it's so cool because in this entire conversation, I've just noticed how you continue to create like teams in whatever space you're in. Like when you were in high school, when first dealing with it, you were creating like a team with your school and your teachers to get accommodations, and then when you went to college, it was like you had people around you, and also in nursing school again, and then when you're getting pregnant, you create a team, and then like post pregnancy, you've got a team, and then you've got Annie, and now you're creating teams for other people by being like, hey, we've got like a parent discussion, so that it's like another way because parents of kids with epilepsy should be connecting with each other too. It's like
Yeah.
you have this amazing team building quality that I am going to like take with me and put in my pocket and try and build as well because
Yeah.
it's so admirable and so appreciated.
Oh, thanks. It's so,
Yeah.
camp is healing for me. I use that as my own personal therapy. It really keeps me going and gives me purpose and meaning. It would be awesome to have new kids. We're taking 45 kids this year and we're already halfway full.
Oh,
So,
wow. So get on it. Well, Meg, thank you so much for all you're doing. And before we sign off here, I'm going to ask you 4 questions that are not related to epilepsy at all,
okay,
just for fun. Okay.
perfect.
Number 1, we're going to start easy. What's your favorite color?
Yellow.
Okay.
Always
Nice.
been my
That does
favorite
not
color.
surprise me. You are
Yeah.
a sunny, warm, wonderful human. That is, I should have guessed it. Number 2, do you have a TV show you're binging right now or that you're like really into right now?
Oh,
Or you're like, I'm a mom, I don't have time for television.
well, Saturday Night Live is like my
Yes.
favorite TV show, one of my top favorite TV shows. And so right now they're having the new episodes on.
Uh-huh.
And so that is my fave.
Number 3, what does it mean to you to be a friend?
Ooh, that's a good one. Because I'll just name what my friends are to me. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you go out of your way to help someone. You're always there for your friend. You empathize with them, treating them like a sibling, or yeah, just always being there for them as a friend and finding ways to make their day.
Well, you just made mine. So,
Ah,
and then number 4, what's your favorite self-care routine that you do for yourself?
I think for self-care, I think exercising. It also stinks to do that self-care.
I
Like it takes
understand.
me like an hour to actually put on my shoes
Yeah.
to exercise. But
Yep.
then when I do, that's really good self-care.
I'm with you.
And listen to a TED Talk, listen to the Moth Radio Hour.
Yeah.
Um, and
Speaking of TED Talks, we didn't even get to that. You
oh,
have a TED Talk. I'm going to drop that in the podcast description as well so that everyone can listen to like cuz that's just so amazing. I keep thinking about like how you had your first seizure like giving a presentation and then you're all of a sudden doing a TED Talk like
oh, it's
which
like,
is live and I'm like what the fuck? That's amazing.
oh, well, I love listening to other people's because they're amazing. Their talks. I'm like,
Well, so is yours. I definitely
well,
recommend you guys check it out. But thank you so much for doing this, Meg. I am so appreciative of you sharing your story, of giving the perspective of what it's like being a mom living with epilepsy, and also the work you're doing with Midwest You Can. It's just so cool. So thank you,
well,
thank you, thank you.
thank you for having me and thank you for making us all laugh on these hard days that we have. You still make us positive and make us be able to laugh and be positive. And yeah, you're a
Yeah.
gift to the epilepsy
Oh my
community.
God. Thank you so much.